All right. Also, Somalia launches an $80 million appeal to provide immediate help for people affected by recent flooding in the country's central region. All right, so those are just some of the top stories we're looking at this morning. Thank you very much for joining us. My name is Betty Callow, and of course, we also have our Twitter poll in which we'd like to hear your voice on it. We're asking you, of course, something that is linked to this NYS scandal, whether you think that the NYS youth service, the National Youth Service should be disbanded. Do you think that the National Youth Service should be disbanded, considering all the scandals that have really rocked this particular department? You remember the 791 million scandal, and now we're talking about 9 billion shillings. That is really not clear where that money went to. We're asking you, should this State Department be disbanded? Hashtag, of course, is KTN News Center, or you can tweet me at Betty M. Kialo. All right, so let's get the show started. And I want to bring in my colleague, Murimi Mwangi, of course, just give us some highlights of what exactly we'll be expecting today. Murimi, good morning. So we're expecting that about 40 suspects who have been implicated in this particular NYS scandal should be appearing before the DCI. But let's just first focus on Lillian Omollo. What exactly is she going to be quizzed on?
Well, good morning, Betty. Perhaps not suspects implicated, but potential witnesses. And these are persons largely drawn from the finance and procurement departments of the National Youth Service, that falling under the Ministry of Public Affairs, of course, Youth and Gender. And of course, Lillian Omollo will be expected at the DCI. Simultaneous to that, she is also set to appear before the Public Accounts Committee that is chaired by Ugunja legislator Opiyo Wandayi. And part of the explanations that she is expected to give is that confusion that has been there. Remember, the NYS is talking of 9 billion. Recently, she was quoted saying that that's an exaggeration because the figure or the total amount of the cash suspected to have been lost within the vouchers that the DCI has requested for is 900 million, but still quite a huge figure, so to speak. Remember, this coming only 2 days or 3 days after she tendered her resignation alongside Director General of the NYS, Richard Ndubai. And these are the two key witnesses that are expected at the DCI and also expected to appear before the Public Accounts Committee to shed some more light into this particular scandal that is unfolding just a few months into President Uhuru Kenyatta's second and arguably most important term in office, his legacy term. Remember, this particular probe will also be a test into President Kenyatta's new criminal justice system. Remember, he has restructured that right from the DCI with the replacement there with George Kinoti. You go to the Attorney General's chambers, you have Justice Paul Kihara Kariuki. You go to the Directorate of Public Prosecution, you have Nurdin Haji. And these are the key persons that President Uhuru Kenyatta will be banking on to bring this particular matter to rest. Betty.
All right, you mentioned, of course, about the Public Accounts Committee. And one Opiyo Wandayi over the weekend was quoted saying that, this officials just, stepping aside was mere public relations. What exactly did he mean by that? And what are we expecting to see from this particular committee?
Well, I spoke to the legislator yesterday, and he confirmed that he hasn't received any communication to the contrary, and therefore expects the PS to appear before his committee today. But perhaps what he meant was that with the resignation happening before any of the suspected lost funds have been recovered, perhaps that the investigation is not yet complete until they have the suspects in hand. Remember, previously in the 791 million scandal, all the 23 prime suspects that were arraigned in court were acquitted about 2 months ago, largely due to incoherence in the prosecution evidence that was adduced to prosecute those particular cases, and therefore, much as the Public Accounts Committee will be summoning the PS to appear before them, the burden is also on the Directorate of Criminal Investigations to get concrete evidence that will be substantive to warrant proper prosecution of any of the suspects that will be arraigned in court should that happen in the future. But remember, there has been criticism on the decision by the Public Accounts Committee to summon the two persons as at now, because the report that they would rely on for the investigations would be one from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations or a separate report from the Auditor General. But there has been a defense from a section of other legislators who feel that with the media reports that have highlighted this particular scandal and the recent resignation of the two leaders, that PAC should get into action and begin their grilling to get to the bottom of the matter, even as the DCI continues with their investigations. But remember, we have been here before. You remember former devolution CS Anne Waiguru, who is the current Kirinyaga governor, was also before the same committee as at the time over the 791 million shilling scandal. Remember, at the time there were reports of theft of a signature that was used to transact those particular transactions. As at now, the 9 billion suspected to have been lost is through payments made largely to dummy companies that had been pre-qualified and put into the system. And of course, that is a matter that the DCI will be seeking to get to the bottom of. Remember, he has requested for all the financial records for the ministry, particularly in the Department of NYS, from the financial year 2013-2014 up until now. Remember, why these investigations is very critical to President Uhuru Kenyatta is that the 9 billion shillings figure that we are talking about here is half of the current allocation for the NYS in the coming financial year, which we established is about 18 billion shillings. It's projected to go up to 19 billion by the financial year 2020-2021. And therefore, a conclusive investigation into this alleged scandal is one that will be keenly watched by State House, even as the DCI summons the 40 witnesses today. Betty.
Finally, Murimi, you've covered, this story and, of course, the previous scandal, the 791, like you mentioned correctly. And I just want to ask you, what really, if you could describe for us the burden that is right now on the investigating agencies to ensure that they actually, have somebody who will be found either guilty or, prosecuted in one way or another. Because we've seen this, like you mentioned before, we've seen these investigations, we've seen this summoning of, top, officials of this department before, but at the end of the day, Kenyans are treated to a circus. If you remember, with the, stories to do with the gunny bags, carrying money. So talk to us about the burden really that is on this particular scandal, and how really we're expecting that these new people who have come into these agencies will actualize, some sort of prosecution and ultimately conviction.
Well, if you remember, in the 791 million scandal, there was talk of weaknesses in the IFMIS system. But the IFMIS system, in a way, appears to be vindicated because it's the same system that was able to flag off the irregular payments that were made that time. Remember, when Anne Waiguru appeared before PAC sometime in 2016, she said that the system is what had, unearthed that 791 million shillings scandal. This time round, it appears the system has yet again done that. But the cartels that are so involved in this, you would say, seem to have perfected the art. Remember that time, as I said, there was talk of theft of the signatures. This time, there's talk of insertion of dummy companies into the system. And therefore, this is one where the Directorate of Criminal Investigations will largely also be going into the system just to get to understand what transactions were made, how these transactions were made. And of course, besides doing that, do physical checks perhaps in the stores, the NYS stores, where the said goods that are at the center of this contention are said to have been delivered, yet the investigating agencies says there's no record of deliveries of such goods. And of course, to also get to look into the accounts where reported transactions happened with the illicit cash. Remember, President Uhuru Kenyatta has listed what he calls his big four, and it's expected that NYS will be at the center of the deliveries. Remember, if you look at, for instance, affordable housing, there's every likelihood that the NYS would at some point be contracted to help do that, having been contracted in the past even to do affordable houses for the police, and also for the upgrade of key slum projects, which was the launchpad into President Uhuru Kenyatta's first term. And therefore, it is an investigation that, as I said, will be keenly watched within political and investigative circles, even as Kenyans await to see what report will come from the DCI, and if that will be a strong foundation for a prosecution of any of the suspects that will be netted in that particular scandal. Betty.
Right, Murimi Mwangi there giving us the details of what to expect today as investigations into this new scandal at the NYS, of course, begins today. And of course, that's something that we'll be following up for you here on News Center as we move along. Remember that a number of top officials, including the PS, Lillian Omollo, have been summoned indeed to appear before the DCI to give more information. That alongside other people who are considered to be witnesses or having crucial information to just the digging in of what exactly happened. But still on that, investigators have summoned, like I mentioned, 40 people for questioning over the suspected loss of 9 billion shillings at the NYS. Those to appear before DCI detectives are government officials and business persons who have been paid by the agency for supplying various goods and services. On Sunday, Public Service, Youth and Gender Cabinet Secretary Margret Kobia sent all NYS officers from procurement, finance and accounting departments on compulsory leave to pave way for ongoing investigations. Let's now take a look at what Murimi Mwangi, of course, put up earlier, in which Kobia's directive, of course, comes only a day before Public Service Principal Secretary Lillian Omollo appeared before a parliamentary committee over the scandal.
3rd of November 2016 is now Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru, who had just resigned as Devolution Cabinet Secretary, took to the National Assembly Public Accounts Committee hot seat over the never-to-be-recovered 791 million shillings lost at the National Youth Service. 6 months and 18 days later, the NYS script, it appears, is being reenacted. The main cast this time being recently resigned Public Service Principal Secretary Lillian Omollo, facing the now Opio Wandai-chaired committee to explain the whereabouts of some 9 billion shillings suspected to have been lost at the NYS. This latest scandal unfolding only 2 months after the courts acquitted all 23 prime suspects to the 791 million scam, including ex-PS Peter Mangiti.
We are taking that matter of the NYS scandals extremely seriously, because the kind of money that we are being made to understand that has gotten lost is mind-boggling, to say the least.
Omollo is expected to explain how 36 companies received payments of up to a total of 9 billion shillings for goods never documented to have been supplied to the NYS. This figure, KTN News has established, is nearly half of the NYS budgetary allocation in this coming financial year, totaling 18 billion, which is estimated to ascend to 19 billion by financial year 2020-2021. Omollo resigned late last week alongside NYS Director General Richard Ndubai, reportedly under pressure from State House to pave way for investigations. Separately, a special team of detectives based at the Directorate of Criminal Investigations has been collecting evidence from key potential witnesses, including Omollo and Ndubai, to pave way for likely prosecutions. But will the authorities deliver a positive result this time round and save face for President Uhuru Kenyatta's arguably key flagship project?
We have told him he cannot direct anybody, but he can offer directions. And those directions should be that I want to see action. I want to see I want to see special courts formed. I want to see this case is fast-tracked.
The solution is what was recommended sometime back in 2004, of having a population database where you can actually draw everything. At the end of the day, you cannot create a fictitious company if all entities in this country are registered and linked to the population database.
Call it same script, different cast, and an NYS saga is yet again before Parliament. But with Kenyans expecting more results from Kenyatta's legacy term, a conclusive probe into the latest scam, it appears, is inevitable. Murimi Mwangi, KTN News, in Nairobi.
Meanwhile, Mwakwene Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. has called for the disbandment of the troubled NYS. Mutula says despite enjoying a bigger budgetary allocation, the NYS has continued to wash the taxpayers' money through fraudulent deals.
NYS should be disbanded. NYS should be run through the Ministry of Devolution in conjunction with the Ministry of Youth, because it has failed this country so many times. We have given it a huge budget since 2013. NYS has money for functions of counties. It is not performing those functions. It has been given dams, sanitation, sewerage, and other things. The cities, the major cities of this country, Mombasa and Nairobi, are the dirtiest. Yet we are still giving NYS money. This is time to disband NYS and its management. It's not enough for them to be suspended. Somebody should go to court.
All right, now we switch gears to something else that is developing, and the outgoing officials of the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, IPOA, are this morning expected to hand over to the Secretariat today at an event to be witnessed by Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i. That's a story that we'll be looking at in a short while, giving you and bringing you the latest details of what happens. But before that happens, the Kenya Meteorological Department has issued a new alert on heavy rains and floods expected in several parts of the country beginning today. Several parts in western Kenya, Central, and the Rift Valley are likely to experience heavy rainfall exceeding 50 millimeters. Those residing in urban centers have been warned to be on the lookout for flash floods in their regions. The heavy rains, which began in March, have in different parts of the country, with over 150 people said to have lost their lives, while almost 300,000 others have been displaced. Isiolo Boys High School has been closed indefinitely following unrest over religious differences amongst a section of students. Now, trouble began at around 4 a.m. Sunday morning when some students woke up for their routine morning prayers. It is alleged that a student hurled stones inside the school's mosque while his colleagues were praying. This infuriated the students who were praying, leading to a clash that saw mattresses and boxes burnt. 28 students were arrested over the incident and are being held at the Isiolo police station.
Nimekwambia hataki shule ifungwe zaidi wiki mbili. Ni issue kidogo, ni issue kidogo sana hizi, na media isifanye issue kubwa.
Kuchoma ni arson na ni crime, na ndio maana wenzenu wako kule ili tukiendelea kuchunguza tujue ni nani, ili aende apelekwe ashtakiwe. Sheria imegeuka, si kama kitambo. Ile ni arson na ni kesi ya kotini. Na nataka muelewe wazazi hata na wanafunzi kwamba tunapoteza muda mwingi sana. Saa hizi wiki mbili zitapotea labda. Wiki mbili zitapotea, hamtafundishwa. Na mkirudi wenzenu wataendelea. Na baada ya mwaka tunataka matokeo mazuri. Lazima sote tulitafakari hilo ya kwamba muda umepotea.
Msilete fujo kwa shule. Kitu tumewaletea hapa nupate hii. Hiyo ndio shambu napewa, hiyo ndio napewa ngamia, ndio napewa nyumba ya kulala, ndio napewa gari. Mzese na kufunga mkanda ili wewe uweze kupata haki yako. Na sasa hatukuwaleta hapa ili muje kuchokorana na kufanya na kutia mambo ambaye hayatakusaidia.
Isiolo Boys ni shule ya Waislamu, ya Wakristo, wale hata wataki kusali. Hakuna mtu anaweza kulazimisha mwanafunzi yeyote kusali. Akikuja hapa, mwanafunzi akikuja Isiolo Boys, once you are admitted, wewe umche Mungu, hiyo ni yari yako.
We have no kind words for such activities. This is a learning institution. Lazima mtu afikirie maisha yake. Kama hutaki kusoma, bora wewe utoke badala ya kuleta uharibifu kama hii. Sisi kama viongozi wa dini, hii kitu haina sura ya dini. Hii ni kazi ya shetani, haina sura ya dini. Na yule ambaye anapeana sura ya dini ajui dini ni nini. If among you, you have done this on religious basis, you don't know anything about religion.
The annual County Assembly's Forum Legislative Summit kicked off in Mombasa yesterday with calls to harmonize laws and structures that support devolution. This is the third summit to take place since the inception of county governments. The forum aims at creating a platform for positive engagement between the legislative arms of the devolved system and the government and the Senate. Now, areas of concern include health, gender, mainstreaming and development that is in sync with the national government agenda.
Kenya, as a country led by His Excellency the President, is talking about the Big Four agenda as an agenda of development. There is no Kenya for the national government and a different population for counties. It is one and the same. How do we align lawmaking to ensure that the agenda of the country is aligned with the laws that we make? So we are here for the next 4 days to have a debate on the devolution debate. This means we are taking stock for the last 5 years. Have we been able to make meaningful legislation? Has that translated to service delivery for Wanjiko?
We are here in the third legislative summit, basically to look at how there is an interlink between legislation and development agenda. Because we've realized that if you have good laws, then you have proper development. And recently we were at the devolution conference, and now we are saying that we as senators and MCAs, what is it that we can do together? What are the gaps? Because the area of county legislation is like a virgin country. It is uncharted territory. There are issues, for example, to do with how do you create intergovernmental agencies and under what framework can you oversight?
Now, Senate Speaker Ken Lusaka has scoffed at the section of political leaders agitating for a referendum, saying that the country is not ready for the exercise. Well, he was speaking at a church service, and let's just listen to what he had to say.
Our leaders did make a great step of reuniting the country, healing the country, and therefore calls for a referendum now will divide us further. Actually, we'll get into an electioneering mood until 2022. We'll not even achieve these things that we're talking about, the four agenda that has been said by the president. So we are saying, yes, if the constitution must be looked at, okay, it's a living document, but this is the wrong timing. The timing is wrong. We need to focus now on development. We need to focus on making sure that the people who voted for the leaders start now realizing the fruits. Otherwise, this will derail us.
Now, elders from the Keio community are up in arms against the alleged move to grab their land by powerful cartels. The elders have vowed to fight for the land, which they say was handed down to them from their ancestors. The controversial land in question, measuring 1,100 acres, had reserved for the now defunct Flosper Company of Kenya, which shut down its operations. They want the land to automatically be reverted to the community unless a new process is initiated to set aside the land for any other purpose.
Wale ambao wanapanga mipango mbaya kwa ajili ya kuchukua shamba hili, tunakataa na tunasema watu ya Kapteri hawezi kubali.
Kwa hivyo tunataka kuomba serikali ambaye ni serikali ya Uhuru na deputy president ambaye ni William Ruto kwamba wajue sisi kama Kapterik hatuna shamba lingine mahali tutaenda. Kwa sababu hakuna mahali pengine tutahamia. Ni hapa ndio kwetu na tutakaa hapa mpaka mwisho.
It does not take rocket science to know that this is an extension that may possibly be an oil exploration zone. It does not take a rocket science to realize that people decided to build a dam there up for the purpose of Kimwarer because they want to grab it and grow fruits. It does not take rock science to tell that the same grabbers want to convert it into a national park and sell it.
Now, Murang'a Governor Mwangi Wairia has raised concern over guardrails on the roads and called on the Ministry of Transport to find an alternative. He was speaking during the burial ceremony of Murang'a Public Service Board Chairperson Titus Waithaka. Wairia asked the Transport House committees, both in the National Assembly and Senate, to carry out an audit of the guardrails and see whether it's the poor workmanship or the quality of the guardrails, saying something is amiss about those guardrails. The Public Service Chair died in a road accident similar to that of former Nyeri Governor, the late Wahome Gakuru.
On behalf of Judicial Memorial Academy, ready to read our trip.
God is good, and all the time.
Waithaka passed away through a road accident. But the version of that road accident and that of our departed governor brother was the same. The guardrail is meant to guard. It is meant to protect lives. I think something has gone wrong somewhere because it has now become a weapon. Because we have members of parliament seated with us here. You need to take up that matter. What is wrong with our guardrails? There is a problem. Is it the quality of workmanship? Is it the quality of the guardrails? Why have they become swords? Why have they become a killer? And I think it is not a matter of jokes any longer, because that's a new version of road accidents.
All right, so we want to take a short commercial break here on News Center, but we're coming back to continue with our coverage. Don't go away.